Hello, and how was your day? How was our day? Busy? My goodness, it was busy.
Super busy.
Super busy. I got up, I tell you, I got up at 3 a.m. But I spent the first 2 hours watching some Doctor Who videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
But then we did some work.
Yes.
When you got up.
Non-stop. Yeah, non-stop. Yeah, sometimes we're supposed to be in lockdown and just enjoy Netflix, which we didn't have time, so we had to just be proactive,
But
which
yeah,
is good.
yeah. But tonight I'm definitely coming out as a geek who watches those sci-fi things.
Yes.
Each to his or her own. I made a Doctor Who charity thing once with my very good friend Brendan, and we raised a lot of money for children in need for Doctor Who. And yeah, well, for children in need. We made a lot of money from Doctor Who for children in need because it was a not-for-profit, we won't make it getting any money ourselves kind of thing. It was all right. Bonnie, hello, and a very good evening to you. Thank you for joining us in our home here, where we're talking about a bit of this, a bit of that, and a bit of the other.
That's a lovely surname, Duarte. Haven't had it for a long time.
It's a lovely name. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So yeah, we're looking actually a couple of weeks ago at some robots that kill coronaviruses by zapping them with UV light. Now the US military, which is pretty clever, are going to use these robots, and they look like a bit like something out of Doctor Who because they kind of got a solid base that moves around and a big thing up in the centre that's kind of translucent, and all these purpley lights come out of it. And in a couple of minutes, it can kill all the little nasty little things, just like that. So they've been pretty quick off the mark to get that in. And there is one. We're going to show you one of these.
That looks interesting.
And that it really does look like something out of a television sci-fi show. It certainly does to me.
Looks like a lunch maker.
Yeah, it could be, but yeah, it's very futuristic, and certainly I think back in the 1960s that would have been the kind of thing that you'd have used for a time machine. Oh, look at this, man! Let me see if I can get this whole picture in the screen. I think I almost can. Not quite. But we're getting there for sure. And let's scroll.
It's got wheels, 4 wheels.
It's got wheels. That's the thing. Okay, so there we go. Hello, Kevin. This is a sort of very futuristic-looking thing that looks like it's been lifted straight out of Doctor Who. But it's a thing being used by the US military, where you put it in the mess hall or wherever. A very good evening to you, Yvonne. We're just talking about a thing that we saw a couple of weeks ago, and now the US military's ordered a whole load of them, and they've got 4 wheels, and this is like a riddle. What's got 4 wheels and is purple? And the answer is a purple corona killer. And you switch that thing on. It probably wouldn't be a good idea to be in the room when it's switched on, because I think it would totally disembowel you. But if you're a coronavirus, it just blitzes you to pieces. And did you know that they're 1/80th of the width of a human hair? So they're really tiny little critters, these nasty things that can floor us. But
so is that to clean environment or places, or what is it?
Well, you put it in the middle of the room. It zaps the whole room with a fatal amount of UV light, which disintegrates the little critters.
Oh, that's perfect.
I want one, but I won't be in the room at the time. It's only 110 watts, and it disinfects the surface 2 feet away in just over a minute. So it's not that good. A sponge and some soap would do it in 30 seconds, because I've seen those videos. So, hello, Richard. How are you this evening? It's very good to have you on board. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, interesting. So there we go. I'll bet they're charging the US military an absolutely small fortune for it, and it would probably be cheaper to buy a Dalek. I bet a Dalek could zap a room in no time.
with a plunger.
And my goodness me! Oh my goodness me!
So, wow!
We're getting very science fiction
That's
today.
Very interesting.
We're getting very
Super
science fiction today, and I've got to show you this next picture. This is so science fiction. These are so. This is so a Doctor Who monster, like the Autons or something. And these are because the military are such peace-loving chaps. Hello, Rodney. How are we doing? And hello, Mark. And hello, Enrico. We're talking about this something that the US military have been up to, and apparently up until now they've got these things which are like a torso. on wheels, and you can remote control it around the room, and then you shoot at it, bang, 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 and so they're all full of little bullet holes, and so the military have now had the idea of adapting these, and they've taken the dummies off that you shoot at. A very good evening to you, Paul, doesn't this look like the next generation of Doctor Who monsters, or it would have been in the 1970s anyway, but it's a coronavirus killer, and the US military used to have kind of torsos on the top that you could shoot at, but now they've stuck Doctor Who type lights on them, like so, and they ride around, and they zap every virus within, well, 2 feet. So presumably they're robotic, and they've got to go, you know, these vacuum cleaners you can get that go around the room automatically. Well, they presumably do that, and you probably leave them in the room for half an hour or something, and it zaps everything in sight. But yeah, I want one. Santa can have one for Christmas, although I might not need it by then. Andrew, my very good friend, Yvonne says Daleks scare me, and me too. I used to hide behind the sofa from Daleks when I was a kid. But this is even scary. This is like Weeping Angels or something. These these are the new generation of what do you call it? Coronavirus killers, SARS-CoV-2. Goodbye. You couldn't make it up, could you? Really? It's just it's beyond surreal, today's thing. You know, we've barely started. So in Deutschland, we are going to make masks compulsory for today. Not everywhere. So you won't get the police in. Where were the police taking photographs of ladies picking flowers? Was it Derbyshire? That was right at the beginning of the outbreak, when they got a bit too excited about what the... sorry, Derbyshire, if it's not Derbyshire police, but I'm pretty sure it was. So now, anyway, in Germany, if in shops and in public transport, you've got to wear masks, or there will be trouble. So yeah, you'll be fined. And, wow, and this is something they should try in Tesco's, and the owner of the shop as well. So there we are. You heard what happened in Tesco's, didn't you? Where they were practicing a rugby scrum in the checkout queue.
Oh, yeah.
Where a lot of policemen jumped on some fella who was being quite obnoxious and trying to queue. How can you queue jump? How can you queue jump when you're doing social distancing? It just is insane. It's insane. What on earth? You know, I mean, it's like bizarre.
Well, we all got in with Doolally with all these stuff.
So, yeah. Now, the German... obligation to wear masks, a bit like America really, it only applies in some states, in most states, but in some it doesn't. So as you're going on your sort of wandering around the Black Forest and things, in some states you won't have to. And in Berlin, masks are only recommended in shops, not compulsory. So, ooh, man, this is complicated. But in Berlin, they are mandatory in public transport. Neither Berlin nor Brandenburg are going to fine anyone. So it's just, oh man, it's doing my head in. But anyway, some people in some parts of Germany will have to wear masks, and in some other parts, if they don't, they'll be fined. Let's just leave it at that. Just leave it at that, I think. Now,
Ooh.
do you fancy a corona divorce?
Maybe not.
So this is a phenomenon. It's a trending topic in Japan, and see, in my talk that I sometimes do about property cycles, I talk about couples who, in this jet set lifestyle that we used to live up until a very long time ago, that's so long ago I can't remember it, couples would see each other for like 10 minutes a week, I suppose, and just, hey honey, how you doing? And then he'd go off to work and she'd go off to work, and they'd come back and, oh hey, how was your day? Oh yo, and then
It was a division of labour, right?
Absolutely. So and then he'd put the footy on or something, and she'd go off next door with Netflix with some rom-com.
Oh.
This girl, honestly. And so what would happen at Christmas is that these people would have to spend 2 weeks together in close proximity, and it would just drive them potty. And so divorce lawyers traditionally found that they were very, very, very busy indeed in the first week of January, and there would be no time off at all for divorce lawyers. Hello, Sarah, and a very good evening to you, Fiona. It's great to have you with us. We're just talking about divorce lawyers not getting time off in the first week in January because of this property cycles thing, whereby couples are stuck together in much more close proximity than usual for this 2 weeks of what is meant to be intensely joyful, because also at Christmas there's this expectation you're going to have fun come what may, and then when you don't it's a big downer, and then you blame your partner and it's all your fault and
Yeah, but I just hope that this coronavirus lockdown helps to gel them together. It is not easy. I mean, when you start, well, I don't know.
But anyways,
I don't want to get too philosophical about it.
Or not to be, that is the question. So the term corona divorce has become widely used on Japanese social media sites as couples are airing grievances about their marriages, and many of the posts are frustrated wives. Wasn't there a TV show called that or something? What was it called? You remember?
Yes.
Something Wives.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, but there was one. Sex and the City, that was the one. I think.
That's nothing to do with wives.
That's not the one you're thinking about. We are being quite shocking today, aren't we? My goodness me, it gets worse every
If
day.
I continue laughing, I will need a facelift very soon. Look at my crows.
You've got beautiful crows. Okay. So anyways, and a lot of the posts are from frustrated wives sounding off about their inconsiderate and or demanding husbands. I know, it's sort of terrible, isn't it? Those men, what can you do with them? And best
Is that
thing
a
is
hint?
What?
This topic.
Men, well, absolutely. Put them in the zoo, put them behind bars, and we can sort of look at them and all that kind of thing. And Twitter, in particular, in Japan, is serving as a forum for frustrated wives to talk about their husbands, with many hints that they just one more thing and bam. So and in the 1980s, interestingly, so there is a precedent in Japan for having a double wordy thing with the second word being divorce. Narita divorces were popular in the 1980s as newlywed couples would come back to wow.
What?
Are you reading what I'm reading? Narita divorces relate to newlywed couples who would come back from the honeymoon from 2 weeks in wherever it might be, and at the airport they would decide that they weren't really suited.
That's good.
It is?
So long as civilized.
That's good. Well, they shouldn't have tied the knot in the first place. A very good evening to you, Kevin, our very good friend Kevin, who's joined us tonight. We're just talking divorces. And it's only been 36 days, is it? 36 days, and we're talking about divorce, and that's terrible. I know. You can't... but anyways, we're talking about divorce in the context of Japan, and the extraordinary thing that couples... only in Japan, who are in lockdown because of coronavirus, end up not being able to stand each other after just over a month. Come on.
It's because of a different language. You cannot understand.
It's the language of love, which is the same in any dialect. 35% of marriages in Japan end in separation, but that's lower than us, you see. Maybe it's because they talk about it more. By bottling it up, this is not a good thing.
No.
It's not a good thing to bottle it up. It's better to get it out there in the open and get it over and done with. My very good BBC friend Adam is with us. Hello, sir. We're talking about divorce, and it's only day 36.
36.
35. I can't read. It's only day 35. And we're talking about divorce, but not here, but in Japan, where couples have just going completely doolally, being shut in the home together for all that time, and the sort of things that they complain about are, here's a few examples. And my husband's loud voice, hello, the sound of him coughing and eating. Well, the sound of him coughing is definitely not a good sign right now. I don't recommend a coughing husband. Send him out and make him sit in the garden. The television is on loudly all day. Do I do it? This is just a sort of way to justify what a wonderful fellow I am, really. My husband's snoring as he lays in the middle of the living room. Why would anybody... this is true. These are true things. Hello, Darren. These are true things that people have written about their dearly beloved other halves, and they're dearly departed. But
to me anyway.
Look, what kind of person snores in the middle of the living room?
Well,
This is just not normal.
If you fall asleep, if you're tired, or you just have something to eat, lots of carbs, for example, they give you like a sugar shock kind of thing. So
yeah, well, the wife who was complaining about the snoring husband in the middle of the living room complained that he'd been doing it for 10 days.
is still alive.
Well, it would appear so. And she goes,
Excuse me.
how many more days will it last? Well, it's just insane. And divorce him. And you know, I'll
Just
give
put
you
a
the...
peg on the nose like that.
That would be a good way to do it.
Ouch.
Oh my goodness me! You see, we have props for every occasion, don't we? And ouch. Yeah. Ooh, and some of this is almost beyond funny. One wife writes, "Husband death note. Is it easier to get a divorce?" Ah! It's completely doolally. We're not going to we're not going to even go there. I think it's time to change the subject rapidly before we get into all sorts of knicker twisting here. So Singapore apparently has got a corona crushing superhero squad, and I've been practicing that all evening. And what you might add, what you might ask is a corona crushing superhero squad. Well, it's a bunch of it's a team that were meant to go around Singapore to educate people on the importance of staying at home to save everybody's life, which I think is a very good thing. And for some bizarre reason, these superheroes offended, because we live in this culture now where we offend people, but of all the people to offend, they offended Liverpool FC football fans. And I mean, what? This is quite extraordinary. This is that geeky online publication, The Register, because I came out as a geek tonight, so I'm kind of dipping into that underworld
It's come out of the
that we
closet
don't normally go to. And you know, I don't see anything wrong with the virus fan card. I'm not offended. I'm not a fan of Liverpool as such. But you know, what the hell is going on there? What on earth? It's just like, you know, impossible to fathom what on earth is going on there. They've offended not only Liverpool FC, but probably Captain Tom as well, although he's a lovely fella, and we'll be talking about him later, because their catchphrase is "You'll never walk alone." These ninja, warrior, virus superheroes are going, "You'll never break alone." And and they've got some wonderful names. These folks. There is Fake News Buster, Dr. Disinfector, Circuit Breaker, and lots of others. So you know, I'm going to go out and get the comic book as soon as we go off there, and I'll be kind of studying that in detail, I think. So yeah, and there's a lot of good news. Some of it quite bizarre, but other things where a lot of red zones are becoming greens. A lot of people are kind of easing. The whole news now really is that we're easing all these lockdowns, and we're even flattening the old curve here a bit in the UK, which is great news, because we're all very good people, and we're all staying at home all the time, aren't we? Honestly, I mean, like, you know, we're allowed 10 minutes of exercise, and what do? We go out once every 3 or 4 days, and our 10 minutes of exercise takes us to the supermarket and back. Yay! And then one of us stays outside and gesticulates through the glass and pushes our nose to the glass and everything, much to the amusement of the people inside, without licking. We don't lick the glass because that might be full of viruses, so we just get as close as we can to the glass.
Yeah.
And then the other one is on the other side, and it's very sort of, you know, unusual.
Teamwork.
It's unusual teamwork. Hello, Renee. Thank you for joining us, and Darren as well. Kevin says Boris is back. He is indeed making his mark, and what's it been, about 3 weeks, something like that. So I think you know, I think having had it, I think he's going to be a bit more sympathetic to others who've got it, and to preventing people from having it, because you know, there's no better way to understand what it feels like to be a plankton than to be actually floating around on a coral reef.
Okay. Expand.
So, or, you know, there's no better way to understand what it's like to be a blackbird than chirping along, or whatever blackbirds do. Or, in the case of Boris, there's no better way to understand what it's like to be a corona sufferer than to be a corona sufferer. Not that we would wish that on anybody, but, you know, to have that under his belt is useful when it comes to understanding, you know, how this thing pans out. And
yeah, I think he's going to be out tomorrow. Yeah.
Out?
Well, not out. I mean, he's going to be giving some kind of announcement of some kind.
believe he probably will be, and no doubt henceforth every day they're going to have a press conference every day, which you thought they were having a press conference already, those guys on the podium, but they're going to take questions from the public, and this is a wonderful exercise in democracy, because up on that podium of an evening we're going to get one question from the public, specially selected.
Oh God.
Boris, what aftershave do you wear? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that will certainly open things up in a magnificent way, and we'll all be hugely enlightened by having a public press conference. What do those spin doctors come up with? You know, honestly, lobotomise them all, and you heard that first here. So Nottingham is not just famous for a certain fella and his band of merry men and the sheriff, who was the bad guy, but it's now famous for its scientists, as in Nottingham they've identified some bits of this virus which may lead to the vaccine, and I would vouch that it's probably going to be those spiky bits on the outside. Mm-hmm. The spiky bits, you find something that nobbles onto them and it's game over for that nasty little crittery thing.
Yeah, Nottingham was a huge hospital.
Absolutely so. They think that they may now be able to trigger an immune response and prevent future infection. So it's Nottingham 1, Oxford 2. We'll see. This is like the football scores, isn't it? Really, and that'll offend the Liverpool fans as well.
What about Cambridge?
Well,
they'll be quiet.
Cambridge 3, Oxford 1, Cambridge 3. But we have been but we are working on ours here as well, but I have to admit, in this particular boat race, they're just about a length ahead of us. But you know, anything can happen as we come round the bend in the river, so we shall see. It doesn't actually say which bit they've isolated, and which bit it will be responded to. But
in Nottingham Hospital.
So I reckon it is the knobbly bits. So there's a lot of words written about this, and a lot of esteemed intellectual chaps writing here, but they don't see which bit they are targeting. But they do say that the body will then produce antibodies and T cells to kill the virus after it's encountered this mysterious thing. Maybe it's in the course of being patented or something in secret, or otherwise the journalist wasn't very good. So today's public question comes from, I was going to say Rocker Kev, but he's Rocker Kev on Tuesdays, but he's Kevin tonight. And he says, and this is a very good question, when will I be able to hug my grandparents again?
Well, that's
That is a very, very important and very moving question, because we haven't hugged anybody since Mother's Day, have we?
No, we've seen so many scenes of people visiting parents and grandparents to nursing homes, and they're very poorly, and all you see is all these touching hands with the glass in between, and it's just so moving, so moving, just to see that. Let's hope they have the answer.
Yes, yeah, absolutely so. So another vaccine story. So it's obviously V-Day today, Vaccine Day. This comes from Sky News, and they have the good news and the not so good news about a COVID vaccine, and they put they put the very profound point here that a vaccine must be both effective and safe. So no drinking that chlorine. Okay, if that's all right.
God.
I don't care what POTUS said. I think 20 or 30 people went to hospital because they drank chlorine. So
there was a president saying it, that's what. I mean, people tend to follow the leader, and obviously they did, which was silly.
That's insane. That's
totally
beyond insane. But I say, as I think I might have said yesterday, one of my rather cheeky Facebook friends said, yeah, and swallow a mouse with a dustpan and brush, and he'll go around inside and clean your lungs.
The mouse?
Yeah. Well, that is just absurd.
Oh, yes, I got it.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm thinking pictures.
I know. You dangle the mouse by the tail.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Tasty. This is like that joke, actually. There's a joke where a joke in terrible poor taste. So if you're under the age of 18, tune out now. Hello, Phil. You're not under the age of 18. So joke in poor taste. The man in the hospital wakes up in bed, and the doctor goes, this is one of these really corny ones, he goes, do you want the good news or the bad news?
Oh, God.
He goes, hit me with the bad news. And the doctor says, look, we had to amputate both your legs. And what could possibly be the good news? The guy in the next bed would like to buy your shoes. That was really, groansome, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's a kind of, when I was about 14 at school, we used to think that was hysterically funny. But anyway, good news and bad news about COVID-19. And the government answer. Hello, Michael, as well. Thank you for joining us this evening. The government answer, I can't remember what the question was. At my age,
first public question,
I
which
can't
we'll
remember
not be able to.
I can't remember what the bleeding question was. Is this what the public question was today?
Yes.
Oh, I've got you now. So that was the question. Today's coronavirus question, the first one over from the public. I'm a bit thick sometimes. Mostly. And Lynn from Skipton, North Yorkshire, said she missed her grandchildren and wanted to know whether how soon she'd be able to hug them. And Matt Hancock gave the terribly helpful politician's answer, as soon as possible. Politicians. Oh, you got to love politicians. Let's hug a politician tomorrow.
No.
No, because they're all carrying viruses and things, which is why they gave them a lot of time. They gave themselves a lot of time off. They gave themselves a pay rise and a lot of time off because there are 650 of them, and they decided they were super spreaders, so they'd better stay home with their feet up, which I thought was a great idea. But
Surely they're working on some policies on how to get this country around.
And indeed. Now, Kevin, to be fair to Kevin, he did write, on the first post he wrote today's public question was, and we were discussing that, but I completely missed the point. Sorry, I'm a bit of an old duffer sometimes, but
We had a busy day. Busy day.
So the good news, this is like one of these, there was a TV show called The Two Ronnies with Ronnie Barker and Ronnie Corbett. Ronnie Corbett being the small one. At the end of this show, I'll show you one of these at the end on YouTube. At the end of this show, Ronnie Corbett would sit in this chair, an enormous armchair, which played up to the fact that he was a bit small, and he would tell this sort of 20-minute or whatever shaggy dog story. So this is kind of a bit like we're doing now, in that this story, it's a 2-minute piece here on Sky News, but it's dragging out for sort of 3/4 of the broadcast time. But anyways, so the good news about COVID is that there's never been a better time for mankind to need a new vaccine. And there are a lot of exciting technological advances in biotech and other stuff, and scientists are quite optimistic. And in other outbreaks like Ebola and SARS, we have seen quick, effective solutions. That's the good news.
Wow.
What, I pray, can the bad news be? Let us scroll on. Well, the bad news is a bit of a truism, which is, and I'm sorry for laughing, but you can never know the unknowns.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Confucius, he say, you can never know the unknowns ahead. What setbacks are likely to spring up and how much they will delay? Well, if we're testing our vaccine and there are adverse reactions, it's back to the drawing board, folks. And that's why we test them.
Look at this story about these two dogs delivering beer and smiles for this Long Island craft brewery.
Oh, how very nice. And what are they doing? They're delivering. Oh, they're delivering beer, like those dogs in the mountains with the things on their neck.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're delivering beer. Are they, the ones in the mountains?
Yeah, but but they are definitely delivering beer. Curbside
Oh,
wine
these are?
delivery. Curbside wine delivery.
Curbside.
They just go woof woof. Curb.
Can we show a picture of these to the folks?
Yep.
And up there as well, if we may, because there are two lots of folks tonight. Yeah. Hey. And thank you. That's very nice. They look a bit like Hector from the TV show Hector's House. I will have to show you Hector, just a minute, and we'll just take a little pause here, if we may. Again, only people of a certain age will remember Hector's House. It was one of those super TV shows for kids, which consisted of a sock with somebody's hand up it. And I'm going to try and find you Hector right now. Because
Oh yeah.
Because Hector was a lovely fella. Here's a typical sort of. Oh, here's Hector being rocky with his guitar. We'll have to have this one then, I think. Definitely
coming up.
So coming up in the not too distant future, eventually when we get round to it, is Hector from Hector's House, a well-known TV character, which displays how old I am, and his friends were a frog and a little cat. But
what was that in the 1920s?
There he is. Thank you, Emma. It was roughly that, yes, give or take a year or two, and that was Hector's House, and he used to always say.
Definitely 1920s then.
And
You seem very well acquainted with it.
Absolutely so. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So so there we are, and yeah. So yes. So ooh. So here's a vaccine regulator that really kiboshes the vaccine idea, but you know we're resilient and we're going to go onwards and upwards. But he says, just imagine, he says this pernickety fella, that if a vaccine is being used and there are reports of adverse reactions, and even if they're not related to the vaccine, the public response will be immediate, and there'll be a very reluctance on the part of the public to have a great long needle stuck into their arm with something injected into it, and you can see what he's getting at. You've got a thought for us. Let's
No,
have it.
I have
Bring
the
it on.
word of the day.
Ooh.
Surreptitious.
Ooh.
Do you know what that is?
You sneaked that in very surreptitiously.
You do know. How
I
come?
do, because you told me just before we came on.
And the producer said to me, okay. What is that?
Hello, Corinna. Hope things are good with you tonight.
Hello,
And
Karina.
Corinna was one of the last people we met before lockdown.
Yes.
So hi there. And Phil, thank you for joining us. We've got two Phils on the show tonight, and I think two Kevins are still with us as well. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yes, surreptitious is another near synonym for clandestine or covert. Yeah, you're right. Describe something done by stealth. If you came quietly into the room, you might simply not want to disturb anyone. If you entered surreptitiously, it would be with the intention of eavesdropping. That's a new word for me. What? Surreptitiously.
Yeah. Golden surreptitiously. Golden syrup.
Yeah.
Now, here is a little sprog doing something quite impossible. So there we are. That is a kid floating in midair. I don't think it's been photoshopped or blah, blah, blah. He just decided to jump up the wall, as you do in the course of your doings. And he's got a mask on, so that makes it safe, I guess. Yeah, this is... this
How's
is
he
the...
doing it?
Well, I don't know, but there is this kind of sport, isn't there, where they sort of scramble around buildings at odd angles, and he's only there presumably for a split second, and the camera is presumably one with a very fast speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are people jumping about with masks on, and that is the good news, I think, from the Telegraph today, and they've decided to highlight that as today's feel-good story. A couple of people jumping, and some other people with expensive cameras. Taking photos of them, and we've got all this sort of Captain Tom stuff. We've got masses of,
Yeah, his birthday is coming up.
we've
When's
got
this?
more
2 days
Captain
more.
Tom stuff. We've got more Captain Tom stuff than we have
How many birthday cards has he received?
I mean, yikes. Oh, don't talk to me about birthday cards.
My goodness!
This is yeah, I didn't show you that one before. I showed
fabulous.
you the one from a couple of hours ago, but look, this I think you can probably see that is a school hall full of birthday cards to the wonderful Captain Tom, who should definitely be knighted and probably sainted. And it's a wonderful thing they did. From tomorrow, the Royal Mail are going to start franking letters with happy birthday, with only one person's birthday in mind. And Her Madge is going to Her Madge would have sent him Her Majesty the Queen would have sent him a very nice telegram on his 100th birthday, and now she's going to personalise it. I'm not quite sure, with a corgi paw print or something. So that's very, very nice. And producers at BBC Breakfast worked alongside Buckingham Palace to organise it. So there's probably going to be a special message. His fundraising effort, which started off with the very simple aim of raising £1,000 by walking around the garden, has now reached £29 million. That is just awesome.
Yeah.
What a fabulous fellow. Hello, Suhash. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's great. It's really great to have
It's
your
amazing when you have a vision and when you have a goal to help, and you just accomplish it.
Yeah.
And it's just a fabulous
And that
way
fella,
of learning.
that fella in the middle of all the cards there in that photo I just showed you, that is Captain Tom's grandson, and his name is Benji, and it's the school hall. I don't know whether it's Benji's school, but it's the Great Hall of Bedford School, with 120,000 birthday cards. That is just whoa.
That's
I
a
think-
life worth living.
I think you'd have to live, off the top of my head, I think you'd have to be 300 years old to open one a day. I'm pretty sure that's the right number. But Kevin will
Mass
tell
and me
us
don't get along.
soon whether that is indeed the case. So it's an extraordinary and very, very inspiring
Oh,
story.
look what he's saying. He says, ask for gifts to go to coronavirus sufferers.
Yeah, it's lovely. He's lovely. What a lovely boy. And he's already received 1,000 gifts himself from members of the public. It's absolutely...
That teaches you that when we are...
When the chips are down, you know, we rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
And we
it's
become...
a life worth living.
Yeah, we become better versions of ourselves. And let's hope that sticks after all this is over. Let's hope that we continue to strive to make our world a much, much, much better place than it was. It was pretty crap.
It's a world of understanding and a world of to really focusing what we really want in terms of in a good way, not just consumerism.
Exactly. It was just, you know, getting up every morning at 7 o'clock or something, spending 2 hours to go somewhere, being bored out of your face between 9 to 5, another 2 hours to go home, supper, bed, and it all kind of restarts. Only so you can buy things that you don't really want to impress the neighbours.
Yeah, one time, was it last year? It would take me up to 2 hours to get to work and 2 hours to get back.
Yeah.
Traffic was horrendous.
Yeah.
So really it is a blessing and really has been a blessing for us in many ways.
Traffic's pretty good now, but so you can just sail down that road. But unfortunately, it's also good for the police car chasing you, so they'll catch you.
Oh dear.
Like with only 2 people on the entire motorway, it wouldn't be that good. It wouldn't be that good. In Switzerland, hairdressers, that key service and gardening centres have reopened, and I hope people don't get them confused, because otherwise they get the hedge trimmers and so that might not be so good. But yeah, and well, people across the UK have also been buying NHS-inspired football scarves, and they've raised £8,000 for meals for medical workers, and there have been 35 food drops as a result across London, with more on the way, which is pretty good. Ooh, so here's a thing which is about ventilators, but it's not about corona.
Okay.
They're getting some new ventilators in a place called Odisha in India, not for coronavirus, but for snake bites. And a lot of people died last year from snake bites, but they think that, and the snake bites give you respiratory failure as well, probably a different kind from the corona one, but they think the ventilators will really help, and they've ordered a whole bunch of them in India, which is very, very nice. Very, very nice. Mm-hmm. And I think that's super. In Wrexham, as a driving instructor now, because of the 2-metre rule, he'd have to be outside the car to teach you to drive, so that wouldn't be very safe. He could have he'd be sort of sitting on the roof rack doing that dual control thing with the steering wheel and dual pedals. that didn't really work for him. So now he is delivering prescriptions for a couple of surgeries, just as a sort of charity thing, until things ease up again, which will be soon, I promise you. And so that's very, very, very nice.
We need the vaccine. Come on.
Very, very nice. And this is a super project, actually. Newly created local delivery services that are not Amazon. They're not some big corporate thing. They're not flying in on drones or something. They're just a few people with vans. This started in Deal in Kent. They're called UK Delivers, and they're supporting the local shops by delivering their stuff to local customers. And I think increasingly we will become... Oh, la. We've stopped again. This is some kind of error with Virgin. We don't even know if it's going to save. Good gracious me, but the life continues on YouTube. And so it is, and what an extraordinary thing. The connection that we have on our other channel, We Keep Talking Here, has just stopped. It's come to a very premature end, and our attempts to start it are pretty futile. Let me tell you, isn't this an extraordinary thing? We did read online that there were problems today with our particular internet service provider, who I think are absolutely wonderful, but it would appear that here we have a big outage of epic proportions. And,
So what we need to do is...
so what we need to do is
say good night.
say absolutely good night. God bless you, and we will look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. And this little bit was exclusive on YouTube.
Bye now.